Hey, come on, somebody. Big Rich here. So glad you're tuning in. Got a great topic. Looking forward to talking with you today. Hope you're having a great day. Middle of the week, start of the week, end of the week. Whenever you're listening, I hope you're having a great one. Man, I just got finished, as of this taping, doing Zany's Comedy Club the Monday night. If you're in the Nashville area on Mondays, they do Nate Land in the lab. They do New Material Monday in the main club. Great turnouts, always a fun show, and I had such a good time up there. Headed to Kathleen, Georgia on the 15th on Saturday night. That's near Warner Robins for you folks, and we're going to be at Woodlands Coffee, Roasters, and Cafe. So check them out. Go online. It's through Comedian Discovery, and get your tickets to be a part of the show. All right, here we go. I got one for you today. Now, we got to go back in time for a lot of you, but I think, and you let me know if you did a science project when you were in high school. For me, back in the 1900s, come on, somebody, I did a science project my 11th grade year. 11th grade, baby. I'm biology class, Miss Baker, Margaret Baker, God rest her soul. She's in heaven now. And sweet, well, Miss Baker was the old school teacher. Man, Miss Baker was old when she started teaching, it felt like. I mean, I got her 1 year before she retired. And I kept asking her, when are you going to retire? She'd say, not until we get you out of biology. I mean, that tells you what kind of student I was in there. Miss Baker was tough, man, old school you probably had a teacher like this, very old school, very into, like, in our high school on our football stadium, we had hedges all the way around, like at Georgia. We had those kind of hedges. You had the big archway you ran under. Poison oak got in those hedges. Miss Baker started a campaign to remove the hedges, remove them, annihilate them, get rid of it. We don't need them. And everybody else wanted to keep them. And she was adamant about it. And she would spend 5-10 minutes of class talking about how we need to get rid of those hedges. Later in life, I saw Miss Baker, a little side note, when I was Pastor Brock in Dalton, Georgia. I'll walk into a local church to meet with a pastor, and there's this little lady over there folded church bulletins. You remember those for you old schoolers, the thing that hand you at the door? Miss Baker had to be 100. Now, she was probably about 90, and she's over there folding those. And she looked the same as she did when I was in high school. And I knew who she was immediately. And I was like, Miss Baker. And she goes, oh, my goodness, it's you. She goes, how are you? I said, I'm doing great. You know, I'm a pastor now. I live such and such. She was in a retirement community, and she went to that church, and she volunteered over there. So she's just talking to me, and she brings the pastor over to introduce me. And she said, this was one of my best students. This guy was such a treat to teach. And she kept bragging on me. And I said, thank you, Miss Baker. I sure do appreciate it. And then we went in for our meeting. And when we got done, the pastor said, oh, by the way, I don't know if you know that Miss Baker has struggled with dementia and has a touch of Alzheimer's. I said, oh, I knew. I said, the moment she called me a good student, I knew she didn't have any idea who I was. She thought it was John Wallace Hill Jr. Come on, somebody. And you'll hear about him in a minute. And she was bragging on him, thought it was me. And I said, man, I was probably the worst student she had. But the science project, Miss Baker changed her grading format in 1986 because of what happened the fall of 1985. I wasn't little Richie then. I was teenage Richie, and I'm in the biology class, and she hands out the syllabus for the second half of the year, and 50% of the grade was the science project. And I started thinking, man, if I can do well on that, I'll be set. That'll be the thing. And half your grade. And I thought, what am I going to do? Now, I don't know about you, but my science project, and I'm not a science guy, I had to think of something, but it's all about presentation and you had to stand up and discuss it, give a report, an oral report on it, and present it at the fair. And that was right up my wheelhouse, the talking part. The science part, didn't have a clue. So I decided to get 4 philodendrons. We might pull one up so you can see what a philodendron is. I got 4 of them, and I watered them. They're just green plants. I watered one with water. I watered one with coffee. I watered one with Budweiser. Come on, somebody. No endorsement deal. And then the 4th one I watered with Gatorade. And I documented their growth, and I took pictures. Now, this is 1900s, before we had iPhones and all that. I'm taking pictures, having to go down and get them developed. I've got them up over the back, the backdrop, and I document all this. And in case you're wanting to know, Gatorade grew the best, but it cleared, the leaves turned a different color. They turned kind of clear looking, which was kind of cool. But I did this project. I had my oil report. I had all my photos. My dad helped me with my backdrop, which back then you went and got plywood and you made you a 3-fold, a little tri-fold for your science project. A lot of people now use cardboard that they buy at a store. My buddy Chuck Love, shout out Chuck Love, K through 12, Chickamauga, Gordon Lee. Chuck, for his back, he forgot about the science project. He was scrambling. He showed up at school with his tri-fold board. He took the kitchen cabinets off at his house, and he made a tri-fold board with 3 kitchen cabinets. His mama was raising hell when she got home and realized those doors were gone. And he didn't do too well on the report either. He wasn't a big public speaker. So I had my presentation. I got it ready, watering 4 philodendrons. I made it. I went to the Chickamauga, Georgia, Gordon Lee High School Science Fair down at the fire hall. Come on, somebody. And everybody came out to it. My mom and Daddy didn't make that one because they figured there wasn't much to see. Guess who got a blue ribbon? Oh, yeah. Come on. You're looking at him right here. Blue ribbon. You know what a blue ribbon got me? An A. Automatically, I got a 95. Then I advanced to the Walker County Science Fair. Only blue ribbons went on to the next round. My philodendrons, I kept them growing. I kept showing them. I kept doing what I was doing. I go in there and I get a red ribbon, 2nd place. I got an extra 3 points on my final average or score. So I got a 98 for watering 4 plants with beer, water, coffee, and Gatorade. Now, a lot of my comedy I call front porch comedy because that's where I learned comedy. What do you mean, Big Rich? My mom and my daddy was raised in Mill Village in Chickamauga, Georgia. My grandparents, if you know, shout out Mill Villages. Every town's got one in the rural South and even, Pennsylvania, Midwest. I mean, factory work. Well, Mill Village was little shotgun houses, and my grandparents lived in one till they died. And we would go there every Sunday. And we would have dinner on Sunday. We'd watch the NFL game at 4:00. Here was our schedule for little Richie. On Sunday, we might go to church and we might not. But then at 12 noon, we are at my mama's side of the family, eating lunch, watching the Falcons at 1:00. And then we would finish that game, hop in the car, drive 2.5 miles to my dad's side of the family, and we'd watch the 4:00 game, normally a West Coast team. Hopefully back in the 70s, you got the Dallas Cowboys because that was America's team and Little Richie's team. So I was watching the Cowboys till Jerry Jones came along, and now, it is what it is. But we would do that. And when football wasn't going on, we would sit out in the yard or we'd sit on the front porch. Now, this house still exists in Chickamauga, Georgia. I drove by there about a year ago, was checking it out. I knew the folks that live there. Their daughter, I went to school with one of them, and their daughter now lives there. And I pulled up, they knew I was going to look around a little bit. That front porch where I learned about comedy and storytelling, where my pap, my 2 uncles, and my father would sit in rocking chairs on the front porch with glass bottled Coca-Colas, put some peanuts in them. Come on, somebody. I didn't much care for that, but they were into that. And they would sit there, and me and my cousins would sit at their feet and just hanging out because there wasn't room for more chairs, and listen to them tell stories about life, about people. And they were all funny. It just cracked me up. So that porch is not, you couldn't fit 5 people on that porch. And we've got like 9 crammed on there. So front porch comedy is kind of my mindset. I do clean comedy. It's got a little twist to it. But I think about my dad sitting on that front porch when I was a junior in high school after Sunday dinner, and I walk out there. I'm about to leave because I got a driver's license now. I mean, it's a whole different ball game when you got a license. I show up, hang out, then I'm out. We didn't have Snapchat. We had to get in the car and chase women. I mean, you couldn't just find them on Snapchat and start talking or text. You had to go look for people. So I'm out there and I'm about to say bye. And my dad says, son, tell them about your science project. And I thought, oh, he wants to hear, I made a first place. He goes, tell your uncles and your pap about your science project. And my uncle's like, what'd you do? I said, I took 4 philodendrons and I watered them. One with water, one with coffee, one with Budweiser, and one with Gatorade. And I documented it and I watched them grow and I took pictures of it. And I came up with a thesis and I presented it and blah, blah, blah. And they're just sitting there like, 4 philodendrons. And you watered them with beer and coffee, and my dad said this, and this is where I go back to John Hill, rest in peace, guy I went to high school with. He was science. John Wallace Hill Jr. When he showed up at school, your first day at school when you're new, he showed up and they put your full name on the roster, but nobody calls you that. And you have to say, no, it's Johnny. Well, they called him John Wallace Hill Jr., and he said, that's me. So from 7th grade on, I called him full name, John Wallace Hill Jr., every time I saw him. Now, I have a gift, and that gift is, I try not to have it now, but as a high schooler, I'd annoy the heaven out of people. I mean, stuff like that. There are people 60 years old that walk around Chickamauga being called nicknames that they got in 1982 or 1985 from something that we had said that it stuck. I mean, I could tell you a few of them, but some of them I don't need to do for the broadcast. So anyway, I got old John Wallace Hill Jr. My dad says, so you watered plants with Gatorade, right? And I said, yeah. And then my daddy says, tell him what old John Wallace Hill Jr. did. He's over there splitting atoms. And when he said it, the whole porch cracked up. And I realized my dad set me up for that joke. All he wanted to do was do that one punchline that John Wallace Hill Jr.'s over there splitting atoms and the Brock kids over there watering plants with Gatorade and beer, And they laughed and thought it was so funny, and it was funny. But what's even crazier, remember Miss Baker? 50% of your grade was getting a blue ribbon, going on to the next level, got you more points. Me and John Wallace Hill Jr. had the same grade. Going in, we both had a 98. Now, he got to go on to state because he's splitting atoms and stuff. On a side note, we had to ride. We didn't have buses at Gordon Lee. They still don't. But we had them for the band or the ball team and whatnot. So we rode a bus to the science fair, and you had to put your science project in the back. And like I said, this was like the Olympics to John Wallace Hill Jr. He was all into this. This was like he prepared all year for this one event. And I was looking at his science project, and he had something you had to turn on, like electrical current, something or another. And I hid it on the bus where he couldn't find it. And man, he started getting his stuff out, and he panicked. And I mean, like getting a paper sack and breathing in it, panic. He about hyperventilated right there. And he's like, oh my God, I don't have it. We don't have time to go back. I got to have it. I can't do my presentation without it. Now, listen, The guy driving the bus, Coach Barker, good old Coach Barker. He called you meathead every day in PE. He was a PE coach. There's 17 people on that bus. When John Wallace Hill Jr. couldn't find that piece of the project, he said, Brock, I need to see you. What'd you do with it? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I know it was you. I'm like, what? He goes, where did you put that? I'm like, how do you know? He goes, you're the only one in here that's capable of doing something like that. And you think it's funny. And it is a little funny, but you need to give it up right now because that boy's about to lose his mind. And I said, oh, let me look around, see if I can help him find it. I wouldn't say I hid it, but I happened to find where it was hid. And old John Wallace Hill Jr. says, oh, my God, thank you so much. He didn't piece together that I was the one that hid it. And y'all don't tell his family. He's in heaven now, but don't tell his kids. Yeah, I hid it. We go in. He gets first place, gets to go to UGA for the state science fair. If I'd known I could go to Athens at 11th grade and get to spend a weekend, I'd have done more than watered 4 philodendrons. I can tell you that because I loved Athens. That's where I wanted to go to school. I just couldn't get in. I wanted to go UGA all my life, but I was 72 out of 106 in my high school. I had to go to remedial UGA, West Georgia College over in Carrollton. Shout out, go Wolves. And they were a top 10 school, let me say, in 1986. Yes, West Georgia, top 10 school, according to Playboy magazine for partying. And that's why I picked it. That's what I cared about back then. And they assured me that I would have a good time. And oh, I did. And I got kicked out after 1 quarter or 2 quarters. And I went to remedial West Georgia, Dalton College. And I majored in shooting pool and chasing girls. And then I had to leave there and go to work. And in the midst of working, I figured out, hey, I think I want to do something else in my life because I was working a job at Synthetic Industries, Chickamauga. We used to call it Sin City. And I got 3 promotions in 6 months. Come on, somebody. I was 20 years old. And my boss came up to me and he says, do you like your job? I said, oh, yeah. I make good money and I get to go to Florida on my days off, 3 on, 3 off and all that. He goes, no, do you like it? I said, that's a job. He said, you're going to do it for the next 35 years because you cannot get another promotion without going back to college. And then about a month after that, I got born again, became a Christian, called into ministry, and my life changed. Went back to college, made the dean's list, got a great job at a church, and, the rest is history. Okay, we're back at that science fair. It's over. I'm out. I made a 98. Well, Big Rich, that's awesome. Why are you telling us this today? Well, remember, it counted 50%, and that was the second semester of my junior year. Summertime, spring. I did the math. For me to pass that class with a D, all I had to do was make a 22 the rest of the time. I didn't turn in any homework. Every quiz we took, I wrote my name and I put all C's. I didn't even look at it. I just C'd it all the way down. Test, I'd write my name. I would fill in the ones I knew, which was maybe 2, and then I would turn it in. Here come Miss Baker. We got to have a meeting. You're in jeopardy here. You've got a 32 for a score. Your grade. You're at 32. That's not good, Richie. What's wrong? Is there trouble at home? Is something wrong? Are you upset about something? Is there trauma in your life? I said, no, Miss Baker. That science project counted for half my grade for the rest of the year. I checked out the day I turned that thing in because all I needed was a 22 and I had a D. She goes, you mean to tell me you will be happy with a D? I said, oh, ecstatic. I'll be happy. I'll be dancing out there around the hedges at the high school. That's all I cared about was getting through it. Now, I don't recommend it, but I will tell you this. The next year, they changed the policy she did about her grading. She taught for 30 years. I ain't the only one to figure it out. I was just the only one dumb enough to not put any effort in and get a 22 or 32 and barely get by the class. But she says from then on, the science project counted 25%. Now, I don't know what you did for your science project, and if you enjoy science, it was probably a lot of fun. But mine was all about the presentation. Remember book reports, having to do oral reports? Number one fear in America, and I don't know if it is today, but for years was public speaking. I talk to people, today, they're like, I don't see how you do what you do. I'm comfortable. That's my bread and butter. That's what I enjoy doing. That's what I'm called to do. I've made a living talking since I was 22 years old. Doing comedy, I found my passion. I found what I love doing, and we have a good time. But I remember having to do a book report my senior year, and I forgot to read the book. How'd you forget to read the book? Well, I just didn't read the book. And I don't, to this day, Miss Bohannon, shout out Miss Ellen Bohannon, Gordon Lee High School, retired. She had a point system, and you got graded on your oral report based upon, did you mention the main characters? Did you mention the sub-characters? Tell your opinion about the book? That kind of stuff. You got points. I remember to this day, the book was called On the Beach. I didn't read it. I walked in there. I had that class after lunch. At lunch that day, I read the back cover. You know how a book, it's got, the little monologue or synopsis to get you to buy the book. I read it and I memorized it at lunch. And when it was my turn, I stood up and I quoted what it said on the jacket of the book. On the Beach is a such and such, and I don't remember it today, but the thing about it, it named the characters, the sub-characters, and the plot. So I'm getting points for doing that, but I didn't read the book. And everybody knew I didn't read the book. She knew I didn't. Well, she kind of knew. And here's what I remember about that day. I finish, and then she says, what about the nuclear war? The thing's called On the Beach. I thought it was about going to the beach, sunbathing, having fun. I didn't know. She goes, what about the nuclear war? I said, it changed the whole story. It was tragic. And I would just do one word adjectives, about it. And she kept pushing, and she said, you didn't read the book. Call me up afterwards. I said, I read enough. What did you read? The back jacket? Yes, ma'am. She said, well, you've got to see because you covered what had to be covered, but I want you to reread that book, and then we'll do it again. And I said, I'm good. See, that's better than what I got in biology. I said, I'm happy. and that was the way I thought about those kind of subjects. Now I love reading. I love that kind of stuff. But I don't know about you. I was a really good student first grade through about eighth grade. And then I started figuring out comedy and girls, not in that order. And then my interests were other places. But my one piece of advice for anybody that happens to be watching this, or you're listening to your dad or mom listen to it or watch it, focus in on school. My middle son is graduated college. All three of mine, one's still in college, but two graduated, working their jobs. My middle son, I'll call him, hey, how's your week? Oh, it's work. The office is this and that. And he sounds like he's my age, and he's 24, 25, because that's what happens sometimes. My advice is find something you're passionate about and try to do that for a living. If you can make a living doing something you enjoy, some people say if you're doing a job you love, you'll never work another day in your life. I don't believe that, because work is a four-letter word sometimes. Work can be difficult. You've got to deal. You own your own business. You got to deal with difficult bosses, and you work for yourself. You got to deal with customers, this and that. But if you're doing something you enjoy, that you're passionate about, it's worth it. You can get through the tough days when you're doing something that you're purpose driven. It's your passion. Now, you might be in a place like my dad. My dad worked for the United States Postal Service his whole life. My dad told me I traded my dream for security. My dream wasn't to be a letter carrier, but he was the best letter carrier the city of Chickamauga ever seen. You go by the post office today and you ask, go in there, buy a stamp and say, in the last 50 years, who's the best letter carrier y'all have ever had? They're going to say my dad's name. They're trying to build a statue out there for him. He's so good. I mean, it's crazy. There's two people trying to raise money, build a statue for him. He was the epitome of what hard work and working a job right was about. And he told me, he goes, it's not that I'm passionate about that job. I'm passionate about doing my best. So whatever it is you're doing, go for it. Do your best. I appreciate y'all hanging with me today. We always have a good time at Come On Somebody. And I want to encourage you. A quick shout out. First of all, I love doing this. If you're looking to get stuff done, Hammerhead Creations, Cartersville, Georgia, place to be. And listen now, Big Rich is a spokesman for a company that is called IHG, Isaac Hall Group. And Isaac Hall Group, they deal in affordable health insurance. They cover everything from the health side to Medicaid, Medicare, all that. And, Big Rich, what do you know about insurance? I don't know much, but here's what I know. They know how to keep it simple, and I'm a customer. I was at a place in my life after my divorce where I didn't have insurance, and I worked for myself, and I thought, what am I going to do? And I ran across Isaac Hall Group, and I reached out, and they got me affordable insurance. I mean, affordable. And this would really aggravate my ex-wives. My insurance is better than the insurance I had when I was married. If I'd have known Isaac Hall years ago, I'd have never remarried. Come on, somebody. I mean, that's great insurance. And I'm able to do all the things I need to do. And I'm here to tell you, you ought to give them a call. Or if you're at the age you need Medicare, Medicaid, reach out to them. Tell them Big Rich sent you. You can go online to Isaac Hall Group or call them at 404-391-1936. And you tell them Big Rich said to call. They'll work with you. It's easy. They'll make life better for you. Listen, come out and see me at the show. Follow me on social media. I'll be coming to a city near you soon. If I'm not on your roster, reach out to me via my website. We'll see if we can get to your area. Have a great day, and God bless.